Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Zed and welcome to this video. This is Last Week I Watched number 3. And starting off with the week, I initially thought this was going to be kind of an uneventful week of movies, but looking back on it, it was actually pretty good. I watched a good handful of things, mostly stuff that I own. Only 2 movies I watched on streaming services, and then a TV show that I'll touch on too. So first off, we have Bruce Almighty, starring Jim Carrey. One of his more well-known comedies, but I feel like one of his comedies that's not talked about as much. You have stuff like The Mask and Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, but I think Bruce Almighty is one of his best. I love his performance. I love the supporting cast, Jennifer Aniston, Morgan Freeman, and what's his name? Steve Carell. And I think it's a great story. I'm personally not a religious man, but I tend to actually kind of enjoy religious type movies, especially when they're more lighthearted. And this one is a Jim Carrey comedy, so how much lightheartedness can you get? Love it. It's definitely ahead of its time. Had a sequel that was kind of not needed. Maybe. I actually haven't seen Evan Almighty in a very long time. Maybe I would enjoy it, but Bruce Almighty is fantastic. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Chicken Run, which Chicken Run is a movie that I feel like I forgot the premise of, but not really. So the story of Chicken Run is obviously a bunch of chickens on a small little chicken farm are trying to escape. Obviously, you know, they're being slaughtered, they're being killed, they're being sold, whatever. And they don't want that. They want a better life for themselves. I didn't know that they were in a concentration camp, and by they I mean the chickens. I didn't know that this was a Holocaust movie, and after rewatching this, I was looking up, you know, Chicken Run Holocaust question mark, and yeah, it's a pretty there's a pretty big consensus that Chicken Run is definitely a Holocaust type movie. My Baymax just fell over. Is definitely he won't stand back up. Is definitely, you know, yeah. Very strange to kind of realize that all these years later. I probably haven't seen this film in over a decade. Not that it wasn't good, it was actually pretty good. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. That's Chicken Run. And then next up, we have I Am Legend. So yes, I do own 3 different copies of I Am Legend. Didn't know I did this. I know this one I got from my mother. This one I picked up somewhat recently from a Goodwill. And then I also have it on Blu-ray. Didn't know. One of my mom's favorite movies, actually, I Am Legend, is actually a really good story. I have known, you know, certain facts about this movie, like the Batman v Superman sign in Times Square. I'm trying to unlock my phone so I can have all the scores on my Instagram page at Watching Movies, so I can remind myself when I rated them. And you know, obviously, like starring Will Smith, kind of an apocalypse movie, rabies virus type thing. I knew like very basic stuff about it, but I haven't seen this movie since probably like within the year or 2 it came out. I Am Legend is a really good movie. I specifically love Will Smith's performance because he is a man who is isolated to himself with the entire world at his fingertips. You know, he semi-blames himself for the death and destruction of the world, and he's tasking himself to fix it. And if you didn't know, there is a alternate ending to I Am Legend. And coming up, we have spoilers. At the end of the theatrical version of I Am Legend, Will Smith's character basically finds the cure for the rabies virus, and before he can do anything about it, his laboratory is attacked by a bunch of the other zombies, and he hides away the woman and child he finds not too long prior to this in a, what I can only assume is like a incinerator where you perform what the hell are they called, cremations, and he pulls a grenade and kills himself and all the zombies that are attacking his home. And that's the theatrical ending to I Am Legend. The alternate ending, Will Smith survives and comes to the realization that he is actually the monster. Not these zombies, not the virus, that he has been kidnapping these zombies who are more intelligent than we are led to believe, and definitely less hostile than we are led to believe. And he has been kidnapping them, putting them through experiments, killing them, and then disposing of them. And over these years, the zombies have basically created this new society. And yeah, Will Smith is a murderer in the eyes of them, while in the eyes of Will Smith, he is trying to help them. I definitely prefer that ending more, the alternate ending. Though I feel like the whole movie is kind of it kind of held back a little bit by its CGI. I definitely would have preferred actual real effects, real makeup over the CGI creatures. Though they were definitely creepy because of how uncanny valley they were. I definitely think that it would be the better decision to put real people on set, like real, like almost 100% costumes and makeup, and maybe touch them up with a little bit of CGI when it comes to maybe their skin tones, or when they like unhinge their jaw and they're, you know, screaming or whatever. But I Am Legend, I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. Good time, sad time. Next up we have Footloose. Kick off your Sunday shoes. Footloose, which is kind of research for me for another project I'm always working on. And this is a movie that's been thrown around quite a lot. And I decided to finally give it a watch. And yeah, it's good. It's definitely not the movie I thought it was. And honestly, I didn't even know what the movie was supposed to be in the first place. I knew it was starring Kevin Bacon, and Kevin Bacon had the urge to just dance all the time. That's all I knew about it. But there's a lot of Jesus in that movie, and a lot of small town politics. And Footloose, I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. Love the dancing sequences. Next up, we have John Carpenter's The Thing, which is, I got this pretty cool special edition of it. Missing the pamphlet, and unfortunately that broke, but still a cool edition. John Carpenter's The Thing, one of my favorite monster horror movies. Definitely one of the best of all time, with groundbreaking special effects and puppeteering, and just the practical effects in this movie are outstanding. The atmosphere and the true terror, it's a constant mystery. I've seen this movie probably 3 times now, and even though I know where it's heading, I am still at the edge of my seat. because I'm experiencing these characters, experiencing this for the first time again. I loved The Thing, and I love how the ending is still talked about to this day. It's still open-ended. Who is the monster? John Carpenter, before his death, did in fact confirm that one of the last two survivors, one of them was a thing. Which one? I have my answer. What is yours? Tell me down in the comments down. Tell me in the comments down below. But The Thing, I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Love that movie. Then after that, I decided to watch the new Dracula. I can't put my glasses back on. My hat's... There we go. The new Dracula series on Netflix. And it's 3 episodes, but they're all an hour-and-a-half long. And I'm going to include this here right now because I actually do have something to say about it. The first 2 episodes are absolutely fantastic. Great writing, great direction. The acting and just the storyline as a whole is just brilliant and so captivating. And then the 3rd episode happened. And kind of through the previous 3 hours of my viewing, down the trash. Now, I didn't hate it. You know, Steven Moffat is kind of known for that. Taking something that he made, taking something great that he made, and really just throwing you at it and being like, oh, isn't this awesome? And you're like, this is awesome, Steven, this is awesome. And he's like, what about this thing? And you're like, what the fuck? And that's kind of what happened to Dracula. So unfortunately, it kind of lost me at its final episode, though there are really great moments of the final episode. I am looking forward to a potential series 2 if that ever happens, but for now, watch and enjoy the first 2 episodes, and then do with 3 what you will. Next up, we have another Dracula series. We have Hotel Transylvania, Hotel Transylvania 2, and Hotel Transylvania 3. So with these movies, I basically just wanted to have some fun. I'm a big fan. If I didn't mention previously, this hat is way too freaking hot. I'm taking that off. I didn't mention with the Dracula, but I'm a big fan of classic monsters. Really big fan. Love the Universal Monsters series, one of my favorites. And I love classic monsters. And this is just a great example of bringing the classic monsters to a modern day, child-friendly experience, movie, whatever. All 3 Hotel Transylvanias are really good. I gave the first one 3 stars, the second one 3 stars, and the third one 3.5 stars. They're just all really great. I love the voice cast. I love all the characters. I think the hotel is really cool. Just overall, it's a good series. It's a fun series. Sit down on a cold October evening with a bowl of popcorn and just chillax with your family and enjoy Hotel Transylvania series. So that's that. And Mavis, played by Selena Gomez, one of my crushes. So I love it. And then next up, we're getting at the end of this. We have these ones. I'm gonna take my time on a little bit. So I'm gonna talk about each of them. Star Trek. So, with the reboot of Star Trek that came out in, 2008, 2009, I believe, directed by J.J. Abrams before he did Star Wars, this trilogy, this Star Trek trilogy, is my favorite sci-fi trilogy. I think it's absolutely brilliant. The cast is perfect. The setting is perfect. The direction, the CGI in the first Star Trek is better than in the third Star Trek Beyond. Like, it's absolutely incredible what they managed to do all the way back in 2009, around the same time as Avatar. Absolutely incredible. I laugh, I cry, I get into the action. It's just, to me, the first Star Trek is a almost perfect movie. I love it so much, and I watch it probably once or twice a year. It's incredible. I love it. And then next up, you guessed it, Star Trek Into Darkness, which is kind of a controversial one. It's kind of either you love it or you hate it. The Wrath of Khan storyline is one of the most beloved in Star Trek history, if not the most beloved. And when they decided to remake it of sorts, or a reimagining of it, people either loved it or they hated it. And I'm under the category where I fucking love it. I think it's incredible. Again, the cast is spot on. Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan is not only I'm actually going to read exactly what I said. Benedict Cumberbatch's portrayal of Khan is not only intimidating, but frightening. I think that he is just so calculated, and it kind of stems from his performance as Sherlock. It's so calculated and so direct, and just, even when he's acting a bit emo, I'm like, shit, I do not want to mess with that guy. It's just, overall, I think it's a great story. Again, very emotional. Great story, great action. The CGI, amazing. It's just overall fucking fantastic. I love Chekhov. I love Chekhov. And then lastly, we have Star Trek Beyond, the seemingly final movie in the Star Trek, the Star Trek reboot franchise, as the fourth one is in development hell and has been since the release of that movie. It's already been said, so I'm going to kind of just, if I can think of the word, I'm just going to, why can't I think of any words? I'm going to give you the very basic, whatever. I can't think of the freaking word right now. Star Trek Beyond is kind of like a long episode of the series. It's kind of self-contained, and has probably the least, the least compelling villain. And the cast is great. It comes from a new director. I believe his name is Justin Lee. He's one of the directors of the Fast franchise. And though he does do a pretty good job at capturing, the world that J.J. Abrams had created, he definitely tried to put his own twist on it. There's next to no lens flares. There's more aliens. And there's more comedy. There's more jokes in it than the kind of dry humor that the other two had. And by no means do I think this is a bad movie. But I do think it's the weakest out of the three. Even though if you look at a place like Rotten Tomatoes, it might say otherwise, where it would go Star Trek Beyond, and Star Trek Into Darkness. I think it's the other way around. Star Trek. I think it's in that order of the movies. You know, I think Star Trek is the best, then Into Darkness, and then Beyond. I did enjoy this movie. I do enjoy this movie. Obviously, it's the last one that we have Anton. Yeah, I can't pronounce his last name, as Chekhov, which is very, very sad. And good thing we get to see a lot of him in this movie. Just overall, it was my least favorite, or is my least favorite. But for the love of God, please figure your shit out and get me a Star Trek 4. So Star Trek, 5 out of 5 stars. Star Trek Into Darkness, 5 out of 5 stars. Star Trek Beyond, 4 stars. And then last but not least, premiering yesterday, actually, on Sunday, we have Spencer Confidential, which is the new Mark Wahlberg movie on Netflix. And the trailers looked really good. But the movie overall, it's kind of stale. It's kind of bland, dry. As I'm getting hiccups. Pop the cap. Overall, I didn't ever find myself super invested into the plot, but I was never bored of it. I was just kind of middle ground, very just like, okay, we're doing this now. Marky Mark's getting beat up here. Marky Mark's getting beat up over there. We have M'Baku, who is also there, and also a fighter who is being trained by Marky Mark, but then isn't. And then now they're both detectives. And then now there's an old man who is taking care of them, but maybe a friend before prison. And Marky Mark was in prison because he beat up a cop who was a bad cop, who then was killed by another good cop that Marky Mark thought was good, but that was bad. And then Marky Mark has a girlfriend, kind of. She likes his dick. And she is a successful businesswoman who has a lot of dogs. And then there's this van with a lot of drugs. And then the old man gets kidnapped. Oh, wait, then beforehand, we find out this fat white dude with a small penis nailed a cat to a door. And then M'Baku draws a kitty cat on his really nice car. And then the old man gets kidnapped. And then he gets punched in the eye. Then he has to take a piss. And then Marky Mark's girlfriend comes up and asks him if he's been butt-fucked. Which he hadn't been butt-fucked. And then Marky Mark drives a semi-truck. And then gets his ass kicked one more time. And then performs a citizen's arrest. And then the bad cop that wasn't a bad cop and that was a good cop, his son can go to college now. Sorry for all the spoilers. Kind of, maybe. But hopefully you've seen the movie. I'll put up a spoiler alert before I actually go on my ramble. Spencer Confidential was an okay time. I definitely didn't feel like I wasted my time watching it, but wasn't blown away like I am when watching Daddy's Home 2, which is a fantastic Marky Mark movie. And also, spoiler alert, guys, at the end of Spencer Confidential, they set up a sequel. They were fucking bold. They were like, guys, listen, what if Marky Mark was a fucking private investigator? That's a fucking great idea. I know. We can make a lot of movies and a lot of people want to watch them. Maybe. I don't know what the fuck that was. But at the end of the day, Spencer Confidential was okay. The trailer was fucking fantastic, and I had really high hopes for it because of that. And the movie just kind of turned out to be okay. I haven't written a review for it yet. But I would probably give it like 2.5 stars. Again, I didn't feel like I wasted my time, but I don't feel like I watched anything new or exciting. So yeah, that is what I watched last week. I'm sorry that this is the longest one yet. Oops. But thank you so much. Tell me down below, from what I watched this week, what are your favorites? What are your least favorites? Whatever. But thank you for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. And until next time, guys, I'll be seeing you later. Peace. Marky Mark!